Well, welcome back here to the Air Crash Investigator, and today I'm just going to handle a crop spray accident that happened in the Cape here in South Africa not so long ago, and let's jump right into it. Well, it's a Bell 206 Jet Ranger crashed during agricultural operations. The first thing I just want to say here is that remember that the investigation in terms of this accident has not been completed. My idea is not to help anybody or to get to any reasons for the accident, but I think it's important that we learn from the accidents, and it needs to be done right now so that we can listen, learn, and not repeat the same accidents. Just a little bit about the agricultural application equipment. Here you can see a very nice picture of a lot of R44s, and you can see them with the spray kit standing on there, busy in the Cape. Well, on the left here, I've got the track map, and if you have a look at the track map, you'll see it's in front of the pilot. Now, in this case, where we are looking at, the track map is in the R44 in front of the pilot. Remember, in the Bell 206, it's also in front of the pilot. It needs to be there because the pilot will spray according to the guidance of the track map, but a little bit about that later. Just at the bottom here, just want to show out that we've got the skids, and there you can see is the spray boom. Now, what happened in this case is not that the boom or anything touched the wires on top of the high tension wire, the top wire, which is called the ground wire, but it was the skids, I believe, that would have been touching, and after that, obviously, the rest didn't come out very well. Little look at the flight history, and let's just start the helicopter here. He actually flew early that morning. He flew on that farm the previous day. So the farm and the fields, the high tension wire positions and stuff was not unknown to him. Well, that is just a deduction from the fact that he flew there the previous day. But now after the first early morning sprays, he filled up again, and now he was transiting in this direction to get towards this field here, which is on the other side, as you can see here, of a line that I drew in with the high tension wire, the pylons standing at the back. Just a quick one, if you look at the bottom here, you will see that line is very, well, just about not visible. Now remember that, you know, when you get to like 2 millimeter thick kind of lines, they're not thick enough really for the eye to be able to detect them in the normal background. So if you see them, you're lucky. The fact is that, and I've said that many times before, we fly into these wires for no other reason bar the fact that they actually are there. And it's for us not to try and occupy that space. And that happens very, very easily. Now, in this case, the wire was off, and that is why we knew, or that the preliminary report could indicate that it was, in fact, the ground wire at the top. Early morning spray, no problem with that, refilled knot, and now flying towards the field. So note that we're not busy with the spray operation yet over the field. That's not what we're busy with. We're only taking the aircraft from here to the other side. Now, flying the new field, it was early in the morning. I haven't exactly checked where the sun would be setting, but any sun that is, when you're flying into the rising sun or the setting sun, it becomes extremely difficult to see or to make out the lesser detailed pieces in your environment. All right, so the flight in sunrise contact with the earth wire on the top, and that we have said so. Helicopter destroyed and was a fatal accident. Now, there's a few causation possibilities. Please, I'm just saying this again, not trying to solve any riddles here. I'm just saying that these are the possibilities. I'm not saying that it happened. And what I'm saying is that these are the possibilities that we, who are going to fly in the ag environment, we must have a very good look at. Now that will go for fixed wing as well as for helicopter crop spraying pilots. First of all, I said the pilot knew the area. That's actually a point to be known, because the moment that we know about an area, we become a little bit more comfortable, because we know the restrictions in the area, we know the obstructions in the area. It's just a little bit more of a, let's call it a calm mindset. Now the pilot, this is something that I'm just suggesting, because I know how it is. When we move from one field to the other field, we're definitely going to have to set up the track map and get the track map ready so that we can draw the first lines and work from there. So the pilot may have been, I'm not saying he was, but if it is so, he could have been busy. In other words, attention could have been taken away from the physical flying at that moment in time, being, let's say, he was interfacing with the track map and not necessarily seriously with the environment. Okay, the flight into the sunrise, I've said that one. The pilot decided to cross the HT wires between the pylons. Now, wow, that is why we call these wire fly traps, and that is why we have created procedures, and where the procedures say that, man, we see that we cannot see the wires, but we look for the pylons, and we always cross over the pylon. Thereby, we will ensure that we never fly into or hit any wires. Now, the causation of this could either be that there was, he wasn't initially very well trained in terms of that, or he was simply not following the procedure. Well, I imagine it's either of the two. Now, the top wire is the thinnest, and it's the most difficult to see. Now, if a skid hooks up into that, the moment that the skid hooks up, the helicopter will turn and the blade will just cut off the tail. And that's the beginning of the chaos afterwards. And then lastly, I said that if the pilot saw, for instance, if he just realized all of a sudden there was wires in front of him, he would have pulled back. And if you pull very hard back, you can also cut off the tail. Not a very nice story, but once you're in it, unfortunately in this case, you are in it. So now the question is, what do we take away? Because whatever we say and do cannot reverse the actuality of what happened. So I'm just saying a couple of stuff here. I say any maneuver, start there. Or a task must be properly set up before commencement. And what do I mean by set up? If I'm going to do, let's say a steep turn, I'm going to do a certain amount of lookout and engine power and all that kind of stuff before I in. That's what I call the setup. Before I go and spray, I set up the track map, I set up the switchology inside, make sure that's all right inside the aircraft. That is obviously after the outside of the aircraft has been sorted out. The point being that we must set up, we cannot set up in an environment where we actually have got other stuff that can actually be dangerous to us. So we must never allow, now in the same time, for the attention to be taken away from the most important task. And what is the most important task? And the guy that taught me about accident investigation, he said, the most important task is the one that is most probably going to hurt you. And in this case, what was most probably going to hurt him was the wire. All right? But remember, you must have the idea or the perception or the feeling that it's going to be a problem. And if you see it, then it's a problem. That which you do not see and you don't know, or you don't think to compensate for, does not actually exist in the reality of your mind. Never fly low and change radio navigation equipment or anything to that effect. And here, I can recite the accidents I haven't got enough fingers and toes to do that. Flying, oh, by the way, I've got all my fingers and toes, by grace, I imagine. Flying into the rising sun or setting sun, this is another thing that is very important. The moment that we fly into the sun, whether it is rising above the horizon or setting on the horizon, it doesn't matter. The light that's coming from there is so intense that the ability to focus on, let's say, more minuscule or important or smaller details is actually not physically possible. It is a visibility killer, and we have to think of that, compensate for that, and stay out of the way. Always fly over a pylon. Right, we've said that. Now, the next thing I say here at the bottom is crossing wires above or below. Yes, we can cross the wires below, and you would have seen in numerous cases where actually crop sprayers would fly underneath wires. Am I advocating that we must do that? I'm not advocating anything. I'm saying to you that there is a very, very specific procedure that you must taught, and how you tackle an environment that there's a wire, that you eventually can fly underneath that wire at pretty much the speeds that you need. That's true. But there is a setup phase. And for you to be able to do the setup phase, you need to have been trained in this. Okay, just a last comment here. During the ag and game operation, more than 50% of the time, you know, I would actually like to say that, that 50% is not even close to reality. It's probably 70, 80% of the time. The pilots, they were, and I need you to listen to the words that I'm using here, they were aware, but they were not attentive. They were aware, but because their minds were something, they didn't pay attention. Awareness and attentiveness are two different things. I am aware that there is X in front of me, but am I paying attention, or is my attention split and I do not give sufficient attention to that point? Well, that'll be all for today. For this very one, please stay safe out there. See you in the next one.